Okay, this is going to be one of my 5-minute series videos. In reality is this video is going to take about 10 minutes to do, but 5 minutes sounds snappy. Let's go straight to the portal. So before you can provision compute, you need your network infrastructure. So let's go straight to networking, virtual network. And this is creating a layer 2 network. We'll put it in available zone 1B, call it demo. Demo sub, address, nice easy sitter to remember, and nice easy gateway. Okay, so that's a gateway that we'll use later on. Subnet details, I'm not gonna, this is where you can reserve IP address ranges if you wanted from DHCP. DNS, this is where you can put in your DNS server, Google's DNS server, and have it pumped into your image at build time. And the same here for routing. If you want to add any static routes to your instance at boot time, put them in here and then they'll get brought into your instance. So we hit create there, that's the network. Now let's create a router so that we can route to the network. And again, we're going to route from the external gateway, so we make sure we select the right availability zone. Demo router, create. Once we create it, we'll set the gateway on it. That's the gateway to the external network. Gateway settings. Make sure you select the external network and not the network I've just created. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll add the interface from the subnet that we created as well. So now we want to go and on our demo router, add an interface. Select the demo sub, and then we put in that gateway IP address. 1.254, and great. So that's our network infrastructure all created. Now we just want to set up security groups. So when we access the security here, security groups, and I have one ready here already. We'll create a new one, call it demo. So I'm going to allow SSH ping and RDP with this security group. By default, egress, so outbound traffic is allowed, but inbound traffic is not allowed. So let's make those rules to allow inbound traffic. So add a rule. And again, you can create your own rule if need be, but there's a few out of the box for standard ones. So SSH is one we want to use. And again, don't do this at home. For a production environment, please make sure you lock this down appropriately. I'm allowing every address on the internet to come in onto this box. You should not do that in a production environment if you're worried about security. If you're setting up a honeypot, that's fine. Again, I'm going to do the same thing. We've done SSH. Now we're going to allow RDP. And add. And finally, I said I was going to allow ping. So ping uses a protocol called ICMP. Okay, so that's those three protocols all wide open. You can see them here. The ports are 22 for SSH, 3389 for RDP, and ICMP protocol. Next thing we need to do is we need to create an SSH key pair. This is what's used to create your key, or sorry, to allow you access your SSH key to access onto the environment. I'm going to call it demo 127 so it doesn't mix with our keys. UK1B to make sure you're in the same availability zone, and hit create. And now don't lose this. If you lose this, you will lose access to your box, which is what I did in the last video, which is why I had to re-record this. So we put it onto the desktop, save. I know where it is. So now we're ready to build our server. So we select create virtual server. Up here. Actually, sorry, before I do that, just one quick point to show you your images. It's important you get the right image sizes. So if you look back at images here quickly, we're going to build a Windows image and an Ubuntu image. So if you look at the Windows image down here, just to note the size, make sure you get the right size when you're using it. So let's go back to create a virtual server. And again, I'll give it the same availability zone, give it a nice meaningful name. Win12, how's that for a meaningful name? Give it a decent size, and we're going to boot from image. Select that image that I showed you there, and then we know that the size we need to put here is 80 gigs. That's the mount point it's going to use. Access and security, so we just created a key pair called demo127, and we're going to use the demo security group that we created as well. This is where we select our layer 2 network. Add that in here. Post creation, we'll put in our password. You could pass scripts and PowerShell scripts to run once scripts, that type of thing. That'll happen when it boots up. You could put them in here. This is also another mechanism for passing larger data or scripts, mounting drives on the image at boot time. Create. Okay, so that's created that server. You'll see now what it's doing is it's spinning up some logical volume blocks. It's creating the block storage, and then it'll copy the image onto the block storage. So while it's doing all that, I'm going to spin up a Linux box as well. While we're here, might as well show you that. So again, same region, nice meaningful name, and I'm going to leave that as a small box. Boot from image, and we will put Ubuntu on that because I like Ubuntu, and that's can be nice and small. I'll give it 20 gigs. It doesn't need. I think it only needs 3 gigs. If I'm honest. Mount point, access and security. So you can see the pattern here. You're now a Linux admin as well as a Windows admin, and we'll use the demo group that we did. Network and security, same network. Sorry, virtual network. Network we want. And then post creation, we're not doing anything here because this is a Unix box. This password box would make no difference. I forgot to mention on the Windows box, when you put a password in here, it actually gets tagged onto your Windows instance, so it can be read by other project owners within there for the password of the Windows password of your box. So if you don't put a password there on Windows, it generates one automatically for you, and then there's a special algorithm you can run using the SSH key to find out what the password is. So that's the secure way of doing it. And again, I'm not going to use either of these as well. Hit create there, and that's going to create my Linux box as well. Okay, so we can see our Windows box is active here. Don't be fooled when you see it's active there. So that means it's active within openStack. The instance is spun up. Windows is still Windows. Windows is still slow, so it will take a while for the system to boot itself and come online. The services come online within the Windows platform. So don't forget that step, because everyone thinks this is all very, very instant, which it is, but we're still running Windows. So here what I'm going to do is I'm allocating a public IP address, also known as a floating IP address, or a global IP address. And we have some here already. If there was nothing here, you would just hit allocate IP address here to allocate you another IP address into your resource pool. But I've run this twice already, so I've got an IP address here already. And we allocate to the instance. And then our Ubuntu box should be up now as well. If we come back here into our virtual servers, and let's look at our Ubuntu box. Let's give that a global IP address as well. So we'll come into both of these boxes from the internet. Global IP allocation, and select the last remaining IP address and allocate that. So now we've built all our infrastructure, everything is done effectively. So all we need to do now is log in. So there's one last step that you will need to do when working in Windows. So I'm working in a Windows environment and coming into an Ubuntu environment. The keys, so the SSH key that I downloaded, PuTTY uses its own proprietary format, so you have to convert it. So I'll show you how to convert the key, all the while wasting time to let Windows boot up. So there's a little utility called PuTTYgen, and you just load the key that we created, that I just saved. Which I called, it's on my desktop, wasn't it? Desktop. What did I call that key? 127, here we go. And it just tells you here what to do, so it tells you have to save the key again. So we'll do save private key. Not going to add a thing, we'll just call it demo 127 ppk. So it just means it's in the correct format for us. Okay, so we can try our Windows box, see if Windows has booted yet. What IP address did we give Windows? Was it I think it was 69. Okay, and then password. Okay, there we go. And it's up and running. Okay, so that's how you build a Windows box, connect to it. And then the last step is just to SSH in onto the what was the IP address of this box? Did I say it's down here? I go to 192.1. No, sorry, I want to go to the public IP address. 62. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in as Ubuntu. Although it's K5 user on the Windows images and most other images, the Ubuntu image is Ubuntu. And then we just need to load in our SSH key. Authentication. So that SSH key that we just created. 10.1.7, open. And open that connection. And here you go. Hey presto. We're onto our Ubuntu box as well. Okay. Ta-da. So that is how you quickly build and log into both a Windows box and a Linux box. Thank you very much for watching.